You also have the Matt Jamison courtroom thriller series, which is crime fiction. There are 3 books so far. You have Fractured Justice, Shades of Truth, and Trading Innocence. Tell me more about these books and why you shifted into writing crime fiction.
Well, of course, when I wrote Fractured Justice, which is the first book in that particular series, honestly, I wasn't planning on writing a series. I was just creating a book. One of the reasons that I did that is because I got tired of the kind of question people would ask when they would see a result coming out of a court case, and they would say, well, I don't agree with that. And my response would always be, well, you weren't there. You don't know the facts. You don't know what happened. Or they would read about a decision that I wrote as a judge, an appellate court judge, and they would say, well, I would have done that. I would have come to a different conclusion. And what you don't know anything about it, about the law, or about how the facts affected the decision. And so I decided I'm going to write something in which people see that it is not that clear cut, and a lot of it is fact driven or law driven. And so you can't just simply sit back and say, well, I wouldn't have done that, because you weren't there. You don't know what happened. So that's what drove Fractured Justice, which is about a series of murders. I liked the characters so much, and I started thinking about different areas of the law, and I decided, well, I'm going to write a book about writs of habeas corpus. Because people always want to know, how come these cases never end, and how come this happens, and how come that happens? And so I wrote about Shades of Truth, which involves a writ of habeas corpus in a case that comes back years later, and Jamison's involvement in that, and developing aspects of Jamison's personality, because you really see it coming out in that case of his determination to do what he thought was right, that type of thing. And then you have Trading Innocence, which is about the international sex trade and dealing with children as witnesses and as victims, and the fact that people aren't always truthful with you, and how you deal with that, how that affects that. So that's a book in which there's a lot of the psychology of people involved. That particular series is kind of evolving itself into more what I would call prominent situations, social situations. Of course, Trading Innocence, international sex trade. The next book in that series is going to a certain extent involve the Catholic Church, some of the travails that have faced the Catholic Church. That book is currently in edits, and then the new book that I'm writing is going to be probably more focused on trial and decisions made by Jamison in trial. And but parallel to that, I'm also writing a book about the Central Valley, and but it's a complex book. It's going to take a long time to write. It's going to involve a lot of research. I can write Jamison books a lot faster than I can write a book that requires, months of research, and then putting it together. Because if I do historical things, I want them to be accurate. I mean, I'm not just making it up as I go along. That's what really happened. So, I think I like the complexity of people. it often surprises people, but I mean, I've dealt with murderers who I could sit down and talk to, people that have committed murder. They're not, I know it sounds odd, but they're not really violent people. Now, a lot of them are, but by violent I mean people that are just prone to react in terms of violence, but people do violent things that aren't necessarily violent people. And the impact of punishment and the complexity of all of that. I like writing about that because I try to explain things as I go through without being too complicated, preachy.